Hi, my angels, it's Hailey Reese, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am truly so grateful that you are here, and I do hope that you are having an absolutely incredible morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. Today's video is one that I have been so beyond excited to dive into, even prior to what would happen after I went down the rabbit hole and the experience that I would have with this subject matter. So many of you have been requesting that I talk about this, and it's interesting because I thought about perhaps leaving out my personal experience while sharing this, but I did feel as though it was important for me to share what happened with me and this particular theory, kind of going down the rabbit hole, and the mistakes that I made along the way that would lead to my experience, because I feel as though when all of these things are trending and everyone's talking about them, it's seldom talked about how serious these things can be and how very real they are. Lately, more than ever, people have been utilizing lucid dreaming and astral projection to enter into what's referred to as a dreamcore or liminal world, often associated with a disconnection from the concept of reality and a neglected feeling or aesthetic. Now, normally, you feel alone in this space, and the space feels familiar, but incredibly unsettling. And there are a number of rules that you must follow should you decide to travel to these places. Needless to say, today we're going to be diving into what exactly a liminal world is, why people are traveling there, the rules that you must follow should you travel there, and my personal terrifying experience that should serve as a warning as far as how real these places truly can be. It's going to be a wild ride, believe me when I say that. But before we get into today's video, I would just like to take a moment and show my gratitude and share my excitement about today's video sponsor, Dave. I definitely know how it can feel to be stressed about money or to be needing a little extra money to make ends meet. And that's exactly what Dave is for. I will absolutely never forget when there was already a number of things going on in my life, and unexpectedly my dog Ace had a severe pain flare-up and was diagnosed with IVDD. The process of diagnosing this, as I'm sure you could imagine, was a massive unforeseen expense and one that definitely put a lot of stress on us. But obviously, taking care of the fur babies is a no-brainer, and it was something that we knew we were never going to pass up on. With Dave, you could get up to $500, no questions asked. So should I ever find myself in a situation like that again, I could just go straight to Dave instead. Dave is the banking app on a mission to level out the financial playing field. With Dave, you could get extra cash up to $500, no credit check, no late fees, and no interest. You see how much extra cash you qualify for in 5 minutes or less. With extra cash, you could buy groceries, fill the tank, pay the rent, as you get extra cash instantly when you transfer to Dave Checking. Download the Dave app now or head to dave.com/Hailey Reese. Sign up in 5 minutes or less and see if you qualify for up to $500. I will have everything linked for you at the top of my description. And thank you so much to Dave for not only sponsoring today's video, but for being an amazing stress reliever in an already really expensive time in the world. But with all of that being said, let's get into today's video because we have so much to cover, and truly, this experience is one of the most chilling and unsettling I've had in a very long time. Okay, so before I explain everything that happened to me and how I dangerously and naively went a little too deep into this theory without considering everything else that was going on in my life, let's first take a look at what exactly this theory is and why it's become so popular as of lately. So from my research and my understanding, this all really came to the forefront when people got together and talked about these dreamlike spaces they were finding themselves in, mostly unintentionally. Now, the way that a lot of people describe these spaces is that it feels as though it's empty, it's abandoned, yet somehow you still simultaneously feel watched and as though you are not the only one there. Now, one common thing that a lot of people experience in these spaces is a feeling of uneasiness, a feeling of needing to get out of there or not feeling quite safe there. But yet somehow the place feels oddly familiar. People describe it as being a place that they seem to know somewhere, perhaps from a distant memory, or a place that they've been in another dream or in another time. But yet, somehow, again, it doesn't feel like a space you're necessarily supposed to be. And now that so many people have been talking about this, many more people are trying to enter these spaces intentionally. Now, they are being advised with a number of rules, and we'll get into that in a moment. But what if these spaces aren't safe? And what if there truly is a possibility that you could find yourself trapped there? When you go down the rabbit hole of entering into these particular dreamlike spaces, many people are being advised to enter into a lucid dream and teleport to a space they want to go to. Now, we've talked countless times here on my channel about how we are truly spiritual beings having an earthly experience. And while our experience is exactly that, an earthly experience here on earth, there are many dimensions and many other places that exist with other beings as well. I also do want to take a moment to note, because I think it's incredibly important to touch on right off the get-go when we talk about astral projection, lucid dreaming, and traveling to different dimensions or astral planes, is that while there is so much light, there is also darkness out there, and you may find yourself in a space that may not be to the vibrational frequency you want to associate with. Now, where I started going down this particular rabbit hole was when I found a bunch of TikTok videos talking about spaces that can only be accessed between very specific hours of the night, one of which being between 4:20 a.m. and 4:24 a.m., another of which being between 2:20 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. And what's interesting about these different places is that while the time zones to enter them are a little bit different and the rules may vary slightly, there are still certain rules that are implemented in all of these spaces that must be followed. So immediately when I start going down the rabbit hole of all of these different timelines and the times that people are going to these spaces and the rules that must be followed and the prompt nature in which you need to find yourself out of these spaces or risk getting trapped in them, I went down a massive, massive rabbit hole exploring all of these different worlds or places or dreamlike spaces, whatever it is you want to refer to them as. And that was kind of where my very first mistake began. Because a big rule in the spiritual world, or even if it's an unspoken rule, although a lot of us do talk about it, is that with anything to do with the supernatural, the paranormal, the otherworldly, you should most definitely not dabble in it when you are sick. And I got sick super, super badly with pneumonia. I was down bad for weeks. You guys know I lost half my left lung. So when I get hit with any sort of chest infection, it is just extremely dangerous and really takes me out. And yet here I was spending my nights digging down these rabbit holes and digging deeper and deeper to these different beings and the different rules and the different entities that can form attachments to you and attempt to come back with you. So I do want you to keep that in mind throughout this, as far as the first thing that I should have kept in mind for myself was that maybe late at night, digging down these dark rabbit holes and going down these different avenues may not be the best when my spiritual energy, my aura, is a little bit down right now because I'm sick. I'm really sick. As I just mentioned about a minute ago, there is good, but there is also bad that exists. Where there is good, there is also evil. And simultaneously, this means when you're traveling out into the astral planes, there are many vibrations that you can find yourself interacting with, which is why they say it's so incredibly important anytime you're doing spiritual work to ensure that your vibration is high. Low vibrational beings and low vibrational energy does not like being around for long periods of time. A high vibrational frequency and high vibrational energies, they just don't align with one another. Like-minded energies attract to one another. Now, we may not always know this because here on Earth, it is so incredibly challenging. We go through some of the darkest of things. We see some of the most evil manifesting around us in people and in things. And it can be a time and a place where we look around and go, why would I sign up for this? Like, why out of all the beautiful dimensions would I sit here and decide I want to go to Earth where there is so much low vibrational energy at times? But what we fail to remember as we come down here for this earthly experience is the fact that we signed up for this because Earth is the most growth. There is so much growth to be had here because in the amount of contrast we experience and the amount of highs and lows, for us to be able to journey through this and go through some of the darkest things and still come out stronger and come out better and come out, even if life was challenging for us and maybe we didn't go down the path we wanted, when we come out the other side and we look back on it, there's so much growth and reflection. With that being said, Earth is a very desirable space for a lot of spiritual beings and just beings out there, in the astral planes. And with that being said as well, when we look at the fact that there is some darkness out there, there are energies and there are entities that would give absolutely anything to inhabit a earthly body. Some of the biggest rules are to avoid talking about things like time, to avoid talking about things like dates, to avoid talking about any measurement of time that is from the earthly experience. We know that time doesn't exist in the way we measure it here on Earth. Therefore, that is a earthly measurement of time. We chose down here on Earth to measure our days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But that is, again, an earthly measurement of time, as are the months, as are the years. So when you travel to these spaces and you're around these other beings and you start asking questions about things that are very earthly, it suddenly raises a flag to them that you are not from there. And should you happen to be around some sort of a dark energy or entity, or even one that just wants to inhabit a human body, it has been warned that there's a possibility they will follow you back and attempt to live within your vessel. It's also said that they just want a chance to come to Earth. And so if you're not careful, they can follow you and your soul and your energy back to Earth and therefore perhaps form some sort of attachments. So the very first one that I had seen the other night as I went down this rabbit hole again, talking about the timeline between 4:20 a.m. and 4:24 a.m. had very strict rules as well. And again, they're in alignment with a lot of the other worlds, but this was mostly what was said in this video. They talked a lot about don't stop moving or your exit becomes more distant, and if you stop too long, you won't reach it. It also says if you hear footsteps or running behind you, do not turn around and run until it stops. Also attempt to not exercise fear, as this being is said to feed on fear. In this particular video, it also said to always keep a smile even if it hurts, because once you stop smiling, they will know that you're not one of them. In another world, they talk a lot about how there's a woman in a blue dress who will ask you for directions, and should she do so, you're meant to avoid or lie, as she's being deceitful and she actually knows where she's going. It's all just some sort of a test. They also talk about, in another world, statues that you see there, and should you see statues, do not stare at them, do not get close to them, because they're not statues and they're just waiting for you to recognize them. It says here, in the simplest spiritual terms, dreamcore space refers to a place or state that exists between reality and the dream world or consciousness. It's like a threshold, a space where you're not fully awake, but you're also not fully asleep. A place where boundaries blur and strange, surreal things can happen. In spiritual terms, these spaces can be seen as portals or points of connections between different realms of consciousness, where you might have vivid dreams, insights, or even experience the unknown. It's a place of mystery, transformation, and exploration beyond the usual limits of the physical world. Now, I do intend to do an entire video breaking down all of the different worlds in which people have visited, but there are a lot of similar rules in them. You're supposed to avoid any illuminated doors. Do not go through any doors that you see. Stay on your path and keep moving. That's one of the biggest things within every world, is once you stop, you risk getting stuck in this dimension or world indefinitely. They say if you see a mirror, ensure not to look into it. If you see individuals, don't interact with them. Make sure not to give anything away that you are an earthly being that has traveled to this particular space. The most important thing that they say is to make sure that you keep your fear down and that you ensure that you keep yourself moving and recognizing that you can't stay in this space for long and this is just a moment in time. Now, these spaces can get confusing. In one particular world that I read up about, it's a specific grocery store. Now, this grocery store feels abandoned, but yet it feels nostalgic. You feel as though you must have been here before. And yet, as you're continuing through it, it seems as though you're just looping around to all these different places, and it's very difficult to get out. The rule for this particular grocery store is to find your way to the bakery, as the bakery will have the only exit for you to return back home. Now again, we'll dive into all of the specific rules and all the specific places in an upcoming video because that would just be so much to dive into all in one video today. But there are other very odd rules that must be followed in specific worlds, one of which being do not pick the flowers, another of which being if fruit or food looks extra ripe and extra good, do not try it because it will force you to never leave or to never want to leave. And so I continue down this rabbit hole of trying to learn all the different rules of all the different worlds and the meanings behind these specific worlds. And that's when I start learning that people, as I said, are trying to reach these worlds and trying to see what they're all about. It's one of those things where curiosity is spiked and you want to know, is this real? Some of them really did hit differently for me than others, one of which being these specific pool ones where there's these specific tiles. I'll put a picture on the screen. And for some reason, I get that eerie familiarity. I get that really strange feeling of I've been here before, but I shouldn't be looking at this. Even the ball pit for me and the empty bridge at night, there's just something about them that are incredibly unsettling. And as I dove deeper, I learned that some people were going into this trying to just reach anywhere they could go, anywhere that would give them a thrill or some sort of excitement. And people were talking about these experiences where they felt truly trapped in these spaces. One individual even commented that their brother went into a coma unexplainably shortly after trying to reach these dream worlds. And yet others have said that when they came back, nothing was ever the same. Now, this rabbit hole for me led down a whole different one of where people have ended up into low vibrational spaces. And again, a lot of times it was people whose vibrations were low themselves, people who didn't really take it seriously or know how to protect themselves or ground themselves or center themselves to their space and their earthly body. And individuals who encountered some really, really dark entities while trying to travel because of a TikTok that they saw. And where I made the mistake here is, as I mentioned, when I was really sick, I was watching all of this late at night and sometimes falling asleep to documentaries talking about these really, really terrifying, dark, low vibrational spaces. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while, you would know that I had this repeating dream that it's interesting now looking back. It reminds me of a space like this now that I've gotten a little bit older and I can look at it pulled back from it. But as I was a child, I was tormented by this one specific dream that felt so real. And it was in this subdivision of almost like townhomes. And there was this one male-like entity that would always show up in this bathroom, and the space was abandoned. It was as if it was only us ever there. And he kept trying to come for me. And I remember it was so serious, these night terrors were so serious for me, that my family had to teach me how to wake myself up from dreams and how to start controlling my dreams. And so I would practice this all the time, being able to take control of a dream I don't like, change the narrative of a dream, or if I have to, just simply wake myself up from the dream. And I remember there was one experience with this entity, this being, this dream monster, whatever you want to call it, where I started telling him this. I'm like, this isn't real. I'm going to wake up. And he's like, it's very much real. You're coming to a very much real place. He made it very clear that I was almost being taunted and I couldn't wake up. And yet I was controlling the dream. I was well aware, but I couldn't wake myself up. And it took a lot of practice to be able to pull myself away from this space that I would find myself in night terrors. So this one particular night, after I've done all of this research and I've watched all these videos, I once again find myself in this dream-like place. Yet what was strange about it is it looked more so like the ones that I've been seeing on, all these different videos that I've been watching. And it felt almost like a field, like a green grass field that was empty. And yet as I was walking, I felt as though there was a building there and there was someone or something up in the building. And as I turned to look, I got that nostalgic feeling of I've seen this before, I've been here before. Yet the building didn't actually look like the buildings in those dreams I used to have as a child. And somehow my brain was associating it energetically with exactly that. I start feeling as though there's all of these eyes on me, and as though I'm not in a safe space. My body goes into full fight or flight mode, and I see in my peripheral vision what looks like a being. And for some reason, despite having looked at all of the different rules about just keep walking, keep going, don't look, get out of there, I didn't seem to recognize in the moment that this could be a space of this nature. And I turned to look and see if I was dreaming of this man figure that I used to dream about as a kid, because it's been a very long time since I've seen that. As I turn, this, I don't even want to say creature, it was like a person looking thing, kind of like if you guys have seen the show From and Smiley. It was almost like that, this big smirky smile, and I made eye contact, and it freaked me out so much quickly that I certainly didn't have a smile, and I kind of gasped and immediately realized I need to get out of here. And so I started running, and I started telling myself, like, you need to wake up, this is not a positive dream. And so I woke up. I start convincing myself, because, I do look at logic at the forefront of everything, that my subconscious, having watched these things late at night and having went down these rabbit holes excessively, was thinking about these things, and that's exactly why this had happened. But later on, Tyler and I would go to set up for me to film. And for some reason, all of a sudden, my electronics were malfunctioning, almost as if there was some sort of energetic clashing with them. Like, even my microphone was like changing my voice to a totally different voice, and it had never done this before. So as we're sitting there, and Tyler's trying to figure it out for me too, because anything technical that I can't figure out, he can always find a way to figure it out. We're sitting there, and we hear my hand on everything I care about. So, okay, I have to explain this to you. My office here, the wall behind where my computer desk is the bedroom, is our bedroom. And the wall is majority concrete, actually. We know this because we tried to drill into it and we were stopped. So the wall is majority concrete. And we're sitting there, and it's silent because I'm getting ready to film. So it's quiet. We shut the AC off, TV off, everything off. And we hear bang, bang, bang. Literally banging on the office wall, coming from what would be our bedroom. And so our initial thought is like, oh, what are the chances someone's doing like some household stuff, like they're hammering some things right when I'm about to record, like what are the chances? And we keep going on, and things just keep getting eerier and creepier, and even like the energy was just strange. And once again, I'm like, Tyler, I don't know if that was coming from upstairs, and there's no way it's coming from downstairs. Our floors are also pretty much concrete. Well, they are concrete under the hardwood. And our closest neighbor is a whole room away, and we never really hear anyone unless it's like right on that wall and they're doing things, and that's been very rare. And as I'm saying this, I'm like, I don't know, that was kind of really creepy, because in one of the worlds that I was researching, it talks a lot about be careful of the knocking when you return back. And right as I'm saying this and thinking this, right again, exactly 3, bang, bang, bang. This happened a couple of times until we went to go check the bedroom. We're listening on the walls, and it just completely stops. Right away, I start thinking about the fact that what if, even if it was my subconscious just taking me there, because I was energetically putting a lot of energy into looking into this, I had went to some sort of dream space like this. And perhaps because I hadn't realized I'd went there and I was looking around and basically doing what you shouldn't do, that I did get some sort of an attachment. So we immediately cleansed our space, and I did like a cord cutting meditation to just cut all cords to anything that does not align with me vibrationally, and just ridding my space of unwanted energies. And everything has been normal since. But ever since this, there are certain ones that stand out to me in ways that I feel as though over the years I've been unintentionally visiting some of them as well. I'm normally especially well dreaming. I truly believe I'm my most spiritual self while I'm sleeping. I'm able to connect to the other side so much more. I've had the craziest, most unexplainable premonitions in my dreams. I'm normally very, very good at recognizing when something's wrong, protecting myself, and returning back to wherever I need to go. But I truly believe that because I was so sick with pneumonia, and I'd been so sick for so many weeks, and my energy had been so low. Like at one point, you guys, I was so sick. I was telling Tyler, like, I don't even have the energy to lift my arm on the couch. Like I feel as though I'm sinking into the couch and my body's shutting down. Like I felt so sick. I'm wondering if perhaps my energy being so low changed the frequency to a degree that my experience was different than it normally would have been in researching and diving down some darker rabbit holes, if that makes sense. I just think it's so important for people to know that other dimensions do exist with different frequencies than ours, but what's interesting about it is to remember that when you travel, even just astrally, you're a visitor somewhere else. And if there are rules in these certain spaces, or even just rules of ways to protect yourself and your energy, you should definitely be considering that before trying to astral project into these other worlds or spaces. I just had to share this with you guys because so many people have been discussing this, and I just think that while it's really interesting, and believe me, it was one of the most fascinating rabbit holes to go down. Truly, it's chilling, especially if you're watching late at night. It's bone chilling, but it really is fascinating to go down. I just wanted to share my experience and remind you that even if you don't necessarily believe it, should you find yourself in these spaces, definitely follow the rules and remember, keep moving. Do not stay put. I really hope that you guys want to see it because I definitely am looking forward to filming part 2 to this, where we dive into all of the different worlds and spaces people have been traveling to, the rules within them, what you should look out for in them, and what they are said to be all about. I'll definitely be making that in the coming days if you guys are interested, so make sure to let me know down below. But that is basically it for today's video. Once again, I would just absolutely love to thank Dave for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to download the Dave app now or head to dave.com/Hailey Reese. Sign up in 5 minutes or less and see if you qualify for up to $500. But thank you so much to Dave for sponsoring. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed but you enjoy my content, I would appreciate it more than you would ever know if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. It really helps both me and my channel, and for me to know what content you're enjoying so that I can make sure to make more of it. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until next time, I love you. Bye, guys.